It's fantastic. I've always wanted to write something like it. And then I found this and somebody already wrote something like it, which is depressing. It has been a long time since I was pleasantly surprised by a movie, but this week's movie got me. Oh, it got me. We are talking about Palm Springs on this week's episode of the Everyman Movie Review. Hey everybody, and thanks for joining me for yet another episode of the Everyman Movie Review. This week we're going to be talking about the Hulu original Palm Springs, which had the highest sale price at Sundance and ended up on Hulu. And a lot of what people are talking about online is that it wasn't worth the cost, but maybe I agree, maybe I disagree. We'll find out by the end. As you know, of course, I'm going to talk a little bit about the people in the movie. I'll talk a little bit about the movie itself. And by the end, I will have a recommendation for you, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Palm Springs was not the movie that I thought I was getting. I always think of Andy Samberg as our generation's Adam Sandler. And I was thinking, okay, Palm Springs, this is probably going to be some kind of yuppie millennial think piece about kids who go out to Palm Springs, like Coachella light, kind of like that. It was not that at all. I am almost glad I didn't watch any of the marketing or see any of the trailers for it because I was absolutely surprised at what I found when I watched it. But before we get too far along, let's get through the pleasantries, shall we? Palm Springs was directed by Max Barbakow. It was written by Andy Sierra. It is starring, of course, the aforementioned Andy Samberg as Niles, Cristin Milioti as Sarah, although you may know her better as the girl with the yellow umbrella or the mother from How I Met Your Mother. J.K. Simmons as Roy, Peter Gallagher as Howard, Meredith Hagner as Misty, Camila Mendez of Riverdale fame, or at least that's where I knew her from, as Tala, Tyler Hoechlin as Abe, Chris Pang as Trevor, Dale Dickey as Darla, and guest starring, I guess, Clifford Johnson, a real physicist and real scientist, as the professor. So that last name may have surprised you, given what I said before about me thinking Andy Samberg, our generation's Adam Sandler, was doing a yuppie coming-of-age film about millennials in Palm Springs. Well, that's because this is not a yuppie coming-of-age film about going to Palm Springs. It is not a Coachella light, where let's take a weekend in Palm Springs rather than going to Coachella. This is a catch me by surprise, because I didn't see any of the marketing, kind of movie. It is also a movie that is unbelievably right in my wheelhouse. How to describe Palm Springs? It is, instead of a modern day yuppie millennial coming of age tale, it is a modern day Groundhog Day. Only we don't have the magic of like finding true love or doing the right thing will get you out of it. In fact, there's some commentary on that instead. It's just a time loop. It's just being stuck in the same day forever. And that there is some real theoretical physics that backs up everything that they talk about. So you have a concept that I love. I mean, I love Groundhog Day. It's fantastic. I've always wanted to write something like it. And then I found this and somebody already wrote something like it, which is depressing. But rather than being exactly like Groundhog Day, they actually get down into the dirt of what it's like to be in this and all of the details. And what I learned from Palm Springs is that my ideal situation is apparently everyone's nightmare. Because basically, if I was Niles, I would look at it as being an amazing adventure. Like, literally, you can find anything on the internet right now. Since money is no object, because tomorrow, all the money I spent today will reappear on my bank account, I could learn all the languages I wanted. I could see things I'd never seen before. I could go places. He even talks one time about getting really messed up and going to Equatorial Guinea. Why don't you go see the pyramids? Why don't, stay awake and go see them? Like, so essentially the rules of this universe are, day starts as it always started on November the 9th. And Niles, is basically reliving the day over and over and over again. And it's kind of unclear how long that's been. At one point, Sarah throws him a millionth birthday party because I guess he feels as though it's been that many loops, that it could have been years and years and years and years, and maybe it was. And he has basically spent that time just messing with wedding guests, doing crazy stuff, like going to Equatorial Guinea, and getting wasted. And sure, I think that the depression that would set in when you realize it at first would be immense. And I could see myself wasting away for a few weeks of just every day, getting drunk, passing out, calling it a day. But once you realize that you're really stuck, it's an amazing opportunity. I will never get older. I will never change, but I remember everything. So I could just go learn everything. And in today's day and age where, as they do in the show, you could FaceTime with some of the greatest minds in the world. Like, I'm going to shoot Charles Johnson an email and tell him, I understand theoretical physics, but I'd love to have a conversation with him about it. And just blow his mind and let him blow my mind. So essentially, Niles is stuck in my ideal scenario. But it's not meant to be ideal. I realized upon watching it that most people are looking at that like, this would be a nightmare. Living the same day and being stuck in the same people, I would be so happy, so very happy. But Niles is obviously not happy, and I'll be honest, I was kind of half watching this movie, as I usually do, half watching movies while working on the website for my presidential campaign. Of course, you can find social media for that, Rob Cheek for Prez, everywhere. And I was building the website and like writing out speeches and stuff, and then I was like, wait, what's happening? And I actually went back and watched the movie from the beginning a second time. And I got a little farther than I had the first time and realized I had been half watching again, maybe building my own website, robertandcheek.com, where you can find links to everything that I do, like my books and all the projects and these YouTube videos and everything. So I went back to the beginning a third time and restarted. And this time I said, I need to watch because something is going on here that I don't get. And then I got it. It's Groundhog Day. He's just repeating it. But on the day that we happen to meet Niles at the beginning of this film, he is romancing Sarah. He gets up and he gives a speech and kind of saves her from it. And she ends up following him into a cave. And we'll learn later more about this cave, but essentially this is the thing that caused him to start looping. And when she follows him in, she gets stuck in the loop as well. And I don't want to go too far without giving a spoiler warning, but what I will say, and it's not really a spoiler, is that Sarah goes in kind of with that groundhog mentality. And she says, so clearly there's a lesson the universe is trying to teach me. And I just need to do the most selfless thing that I can. And if I do it, I'll get out of this. And she does it. And then the day changes and she thinks she's broken the cycle and she's going to wake up in the morning. But of course, she doesn't. They wake up the same morning of November 9th that they always do. And she comes and kicks in the door and says, Niles, hey, let's go get drunk. And now she's in that depressing phase of realizing she's stuck. All right, so now I don't want to go any further because really anything beyond this is going to be a spoiler. So if you're looking to avoid the spoilers, make sure you skip down to the time down below, but come back because I'll have my recommendation at the end of the review. Move now because the spoilers are about to start right here. Okay, so this is all I'm going to say about the Sarah situation. The fact that she said, I want to do the most selfless thing that I absolutely can. And then the next time through at the wedding, she goes and whispers in the ear of her sister who starts to cry and says, are you joking? Etc. I'm like, she is 100% banging the groom the night before. That is definitely happening. And lo and behold, it takes us 40 minutes to get there, but she was. And that's why for her, staying in this loop is terrible. Because no matter what good she does, no matter how much fun she's having with Niles, she wakes up in bed with the groom the next morning and has to skedaddle the way that she did the night of the real wedding. So she thinks telling Tala is going to get her out of the loop because that's like the most selfless thing she can do, and it doesn't. So she gets in with Niles in this like party atmosphere, and it's fun. And I can imagine that if I had been stuck alone for a while, it would be great to have a partner in crime. And like the whole, there's a bomb in, there was a scene where it's like, there's a bomb in the cake and Niles finds it. And then Sarah jumps out and she's like, you foiled my plans in some weird accent that nobody recognizes. And he just comments on it like, apparently from parts unknown. There was a lot of playfulness, and it's weird and it's good that, you know, obviously they remember what happened the day before. So we get to see like a relationship building without the world around them, because the world around them continues to repeat and little things change here and there. Obviously they have an impact, and maybe just the multiverse theory that things will still change no matter how much the day repeats, which is a little bit of what they, the science that they're getting into. But it's weird that like you see this friendship blossom, and then of course, the inevitability of them turning it to a romantic relationship, and then her wanting to leave and him wanting to stay, and they're just being very frustrated, and him trying to figure out what her thing is, and her being like, no relationship, we just had sex, that's it, and him being like, and then doing the The other predictable thing is when he told her at the very beginning, no, you and me, that's never happened. I am like, he is going to ruin this because they're going to get close. And later on, he's going to be like, you know what? I banged you like 1,000 times. All right. And of course he does. And it's predictable, but it's still, there's nothing about this movie that is super predictable. I saw what the secret was, maybe because I've been involved in a situation like that before. I saw him ruining a good thing because I tend to ruin good things in my life. So there's a lot about me that I see in Niles. And like I said, this seems like a nightmare to most people, but it's a dream for me. So take that for what it's worth, I guess. But then Sarah's drive to figure out everything and like want to move out of the loop, there's a little bit, I see myself in that a little bit as well. I think I would want to find out how I could end it when I wanted to. I mean, obviously Niles talks about how he suicided so many times. He got injured and being stuck in ICU where they wouldn't let him sleep. And of course, if you don't sleep, the day doesn't repeat. So he's basically stuck in this agonizing pain for a long time. I think that, obviously in all of these scenarios, all the way back to Groundhog Day, and probably movies that happened beforehand that I just don't know about that use this concept. The idea that trying to kill yourself to escape and then finding out that that's not an escape. Okay, that's probably a normal thing. But when Sarah's like, I want to not kill myself, I want to escape this thing and figure out how to do that, and dives into the science of it, I think I would probably do that too. Only because in the end, physics is really interesting to me, and I would really want to understand it. But I don't know that I would ever do it. She kind of figures it out and then rushes to want to get it done. He doesn't feel the same way. I would say, hey, I want to know what works. And then as soon as I prove it, be like, okay, now I can leave at any time. Let's take advantage of this time, which is weirdly kind of his perspective, because that's kind of his argument, right? Like, okay, so you figured it out. We could leave at any time. Why not stay here for a while? And he's coming from a place of fear. Probably coming from a place of fear too, but also coming from a place of like, this is awesome. We're going to live forever in this. Yeah, it's one day that repeats, but who cares? You and I can do whatever we want. I don't know. But inevitably, they decide to go through with it. He chases her down and he catches her and they go and they do it. And it's amazing, right? And I had this one overarching concern the entire 10-minute section right there. I was like, do not leave Roy here. Do not leave Roy here. And I just realized I haven't even mentioned Roy. So J.K. Simmons plays an amazing character in this. And also maybe a different part of my personality, but definitely somebody I know. Friend of the show, Roberto, is everything about Roy. Just a guy who's like, you know what? Most days I'm fine. I enjoy my kids. I do the whole thing. But every once in a while, I'm going to go torture the kid who put me in this situation. And I'm going to do it in weird ways, like getting all dressed in camouflage and then hunting him with a bow and arrow, or, just coming and shooting or setting him on fire and just finding weird things to do. I can 100% see Roberto doing that. So there's part of me that was just like entertained by that, but also like, ooh, that's kind of scary. But my major concern was like, do not leave Roy in this. He's got a daughter. He needs to get out. And, there's the thing at the end about just like, I got her message. And then like Niles doesn't recognize it. And he's like, oh, you did it. You got out. It's really amazing. It's probably the best ending that they could have put on that movie. And then there's a little bit of an afterword, which is cute because, they keep going to the same house. And it's like, I don't know when they get back, but it ain't today. Well, turns out it's tomorrow. Nonetheless. I think that's about enough for the spoilers. Let's just go wrap up this review and I'll give you my recommendation and we'll bring everybody back in right now. So much like I did for the 7500 review that you saw just earlier, the previous episode, I just gushed a bit about how much I love this movie in the spoiler section. And I was able to do that obviously because I could talk about the movie itself. It was just so interesting in so many ways. But of course, the question is it worth your time to check this out? And is this the kind of movie that you're going to like? Well, even with everything I have going on in my life, many of these hobbies, the running for president and my website and the social media and the Everyman Movie reviews and the podcast, all of that. This movie just enraptured me. Now, it took 3 viewings to do that because I didn't realize what I was getting into. But when I did, I was locked in. And there is a lot of concerning things for people that they may not like. Obviously, there's some talk of suicide. There's acts of suicide. Although in the time Loopy exists and she come back. There is abuse in some ways, because obviously there's an abusive relationship in so much as Niles has the ability to manipulate the people around him, which I can see being a touchy subject for people. Essentially, Niles is acting as a narcissist and kind of as a psychopath, because he has no feeling towards these people. They're basically robots acting out something around him. And I know for some people who have maybe a history or a past that could be very trigger prone. And there is a little bit of blood. There's a little bit of violence. Obviously, like the aforementioned suicide efforts and just injuries and everything that happens. You see a little bit of stuff, but it's always very quick and it's over very fast. It's never any drawn out thing. So I don't think that should be a worry for you. Honestly, if you just want to have your brain pickled by a movie and then slowly turned back into a cucumber as it explains exactly what's happening in clear scientific terms and then lays out for you both the multiverse theory and time loops and how to bump out of them, matter being energy, etc., which, by the way, as far as I can tell, Clifford Johnson was on this movie as an actor and he was talking to Sarah, but I'm pretty sure he also lended his experience and his knowledge to the writer because it was very well put together, very accurate so far as my understanding of the theories. I just think that this movie has something for everyone. There is a love story, there is science, there is the nerding out of Groundhog Day-like antics, there is comedy. It kind of touches everything that you would want, and it caught me by absolute surprise because I had no idea what I was getting into. And I mentioned in the opening that this sold for the highest sale value ever at Sundance, and I see why. If I saw that movie, I would want to have it. I would say, let me get that and let me figure out how to make this a blockbuster. And then Corona happened and we kind of had to move forward with life and it got released on Hulu rather than maybe widely at theaters like it might have otherwise. But I don't think the fact that it came out the way that it did and the sale price have anything to do with each other. Sale price is about the value of the film, and this thing had every bit, it was worth every penny that whatever production house paid for. They should have, and I'm glad that they did. And don't let the fact that it's out on streaming, I know a lot of people just get in the mindset of like, well, if it goes straight to streaming, maybe it's not. That world is over. We are past that. Some of the most amazing things you are ever going to see are going to be released straight to streaming, straight to VOD. This is worth it. Go check it out. I could not say with any higher acclaim how excellent this movie is. It is 100% worth it. And like I've said 1,000 times, I got a lot going on. I am even in the mindset to watch it again because although my first one and started it twice more before that, times of watching it, I am sure I missed up. And this is a movie I feel like I could buy, it'll sit on the shelf, and I'll watch it once a year, twice a year, 3 times a year. It's the kind of movie that when you catch it on cable, no matter where it is, you want to watch it to the end. It's a classic. It's a classic in our time, and that is amazing to me. I really do hope I have time to watch it again, but I got a lot of movies to see because I got to keep up with my 2 episodes per week pace. Obviously, we have episodes come out on Thursday and one day in between, like clockwork. So make sure you were subscribing to the channel, turn on the notifications so you know when a new episode is out. I got a lot of other stuff coming out as well. I'm going to probably do a vlog video about the summer and a catch up on Corona. I'm going to talk about my family a little bit. And obviously, I want to bring back Rob Explains Everything. I really had fun doing the first episode and I got a lot of stuff to cover. So you look for those as well. But until next time, please take care of yourselves and each other. Have a great week, everybody.